Some houses remember the sins of their owners, some keep secrets too heavy for the earth to bury, and some are still awake, waiting for the next soul to arrive. This is the real story of a house that changed the lives of an ordinary family forever. A house not in the middle of nowhere, but in a quiet neighborhood in Springfield, Missouri. A place where screams were muffled by the walls and no prayer ever reached beyond the attic door. Before we descend into tonight's disturbing tale, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Velvet Shadows, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the darkness lurking behind the veil of reality. Comment the phrase, "I hear whispers too," if you make it to the end of this horrifying true account. Chapter 1, The Move-In. Something was off. You ever walk into a place and feel something? Not right? Not just strange, but wrong. Like the walls are watching you. Like you're not alone, even when you are. This story begins in the quiet town of Springfield, Missouri. A house with a white porch, peeling paint and windows that looked like eyes. This was supposed to be a fresh start, but from day one, something was off. James and Linda Wainwright had been married nearly 10 years. Tired of renting tiny apartments, they finally found what they thought was their dream home. A 2-story Victorian house at the end of a tree-lined street. It had a wraparound porch, original oak flooring, and a staircase that curved like a spine into the second floor. A little worn, sure, but it had character. They moved in with their 2 kids, Sarah, age 6, and Daniel, age 9, on a cool September afternoon. At first, it felt exciting. The kids ran from room to room, exploring closets and slamming doors. Linda wandered through the kitchen, picturing family dinners. James stood in the living room, proud, hopeful, but then something shifted. It started subtle. The air inside the house, stale, thick, the kind of air that hasn't been breathed in years. There was a smell, faint at first, like old books and burnt plastic. The moment Linda stepped onto the second floor, she stopped dead. "It's freezing up here," she whispered. She checked the windows. All were shut tight. The thermostat read 72, but her breath came out in mist. Downstairs, James brushed it off. "Old houses always feel weird at first," he chuckled. "Give it a week, you'll get used to it." But Linda didn't get used to it. The first night, while they unpacked boxes, Sarah asked something strange. "Mom, who's the man in the ceiling?" Linda froze. "What man, honey?" "He was looking at me from the vent. In the hallway." Linda checked. No one there. Just an old, rusted vent at the top of the stairs. She told herself it was imagination. Kids say creepy things all the time, right? The following days brought more strange incidents. Lights would flicker, but only upstairs. The attic door at the end of the hallway refused to stay closed. James would latch it shut at night, only to find it swinging open every morning. Then came the sounds. Footsteps from above the ceiling. Slow, dragging, like someone limping through the attic at 2 a.m. James went up one night, flashlight in hand. There was nothing there. No raccoons, no rats, no sign of movement. But when he climbed down and turned to close the attic door, he swore, just for a second, he heard something whisper, "Don't shut me in." He didn't tell Linda. Downstairs, the television would change channels on its own. Children's toys would go off without batteries. And the dog? He barked violently at the attic stairs. Every single night at 3:17 a.m., Sarah refused to sleep in her room. She said the wolves whispered to her. Daniel began sleepwalking, always stopping in front of the attic door. Linda became pale, tired. Her eyes looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "I don't like this house," she whispered to James. "It feels like it's watching us." And James, the skeptic, the practical one, the man of logic, he couldn't explain it. But deep down, he knew something was off. And the truth is, some houses don't want to be lived in. They wait, they whisper, And when the right family moves in, they begin to wake up. If you're still with us, and you felt the dread creeping up your spine just now, leave a comment below saying, "The house was awake. Let us know you survived Chapter 1. Don't forget to like this video if it made you look over your shoulder. And subscribe to Velvet Shadows for more stories that blur the line between truth and terror. Chapter 2. The Room That Waits. Not every room is meant to be opened. Some rooms wait for you, silently, patiently, and when the time is right, they remember you. This is Chapter 2 of the real-life horror story of the Wainwright family and the house that should have been left abandoned. And tonight, we go upstairs, into the room that was never supposed to be entered. A week after the Wainwrights moved in, the noises got worse. Every night, 2 to 3:30 a.m., the same dragging sound above their heads. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't random. It was rhythmic, like something heavy, being slowly pulled from one end of the attic to the other, over and over again. James assumed it was rats or raccoons until he opened the attic and saw what had been waiting. The attic was cramped with slanted ceilings and rotting wood. Dust floated like ash. The smell was thick, old fabric, mildew, and something else, something sweet but sickening. In the center of the room was a rocking chair. Not just any chair. This one was antique, Victorian, with deep claw marks on its armrests like something had held on tight, unwilling to leave. James stared. He swore they didn't move the chair up there, but there it was, perfectly centered, facing the far corner of the attic, just rocking, slightly. He stood in the doorway for a full minute, waiting, listening. Then he heard it. A whisper, not from the room, but from inside his ears. "Don't turn around." James slammed the attic shut. But the next morning, it was open again. Linda began to change. She'd wake up with cuts down her back, not scratches, not from nails. Deep gashes, 3 parallel lines, always in the same place, like claws. When she checked the bed, the sheets were clean. No blood, no signs of a struggle. But her back burned for days. She started hearing voices in the bathroom mirror. Just a single sentence, whispered when no one else was home. "He lives up there." The children grew quiet. Sarah refused to sleep. She'd wake up screaming every night at exactly 3:17 a.m., drawing pictures that no 6-year-old should draw. Always the same, a black figure with no eyes, standing in a triangle-shaped room. Sometimes the figure was sitting. Sometimes it was smiling. Daniel, the older brother, said his toys moved on their own. He said the attic door creaked open even when locked. He said he heard the rocking chair moving. "He rocks when we sleep," Daniel whispered. "He doesn't like when we forget him." Even the family dog knew something was wrong. Every night, as if on cue, he would sit at the base of the attic stairs and growl, teeth bared, fur raised, and always at the same exact time, 3:17 a.m. One night, James tried to carry the dog up the attic stairs. The animal went berserk, scratched his chest, jumped from his arms, and ran to the basement, howling. That was the night Linda found Sarah staring at the ceiling, whispering, "He says we don't belong here." Terrified, James called a local priest. Father Millen was old, quiet, and careful with his words. He arrived with holy water and a small Bible. He didn't ask questions. He simply walked to the attic, climbed the stairs, and stood silently in the doorway for exactly 5 minutes. Then, without saying a word, he turned around, descended the stairs, and left. He never came back, never answered their calls. He wouldn't even look James in the eye when he passed him at the grocery store a week later. The house was changing them. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was fatigue, paranoia, voices that followed them from room to room. James began sleeping in the living room. Linda locked the attic from the outside. But every morning, the door was open, every time, and the chair, still in the center of the attic, still rocking, even when no one was home. The room was waiting, and now it was awake. If this chapter left a chill running down your spine, comment below. The rocking never stops. Let us know you're still brave enough to keep listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Velvet Shadows, where the darkness isn't just a story, it's a place. And we're not done yet. Because in Chapter 3, the house stops watching and starts touching. Chapter 3, the scratches mark of the unseen. When the house finally touches you, it never lets go. Welcome to Chapter 3 of the Wainwright haunting. This is Velvet Shadows, and the attic door is still open. Linda Wainwright had always been a calm, level-headed woman. She didn't scare easy, but now, she wouldn't go upstairs alone. She avoided mirrors, and every morning she woke up with new marks on her body. At first, it was subtle. Tiny bruises on her legs, a small scrape down the side of her ribcage, then 3 long, deep claw-like scratches across her back, straight, even, bleeding lightly. She screamed when she saw them in the mirror. James searched the bed, the sheets, the headboard. Nothing. No nails sticking out, no sharp edges, no explanation. The scratches became more frequent, sometimes on her shoulders, sometimes on the backs of her thighs, once even on her neck. She started feeling it. At night, something brushing against her skin, cold, like fingers. But when she turned the lights on, nothing. Just silence, just shadows. She began sleeping with the lights on, sometimes not sleeping at all. James thought she was losing it, until it happened to him. He woke up one night gasping. He couldn't breathe. His chest felt crushed, like something was sitting on him. He looked up and saw it, just for a second. A figure, tall, slender, blacker than shadow, its head tilted, its fingers resting gently on his chest. Then it was gone, and James had 3 red scratches down his ribs. He didn't laugh it off anymore. Sarah had stopped speaking. Her drawings got worse. She started sketching not just the black figure, but herself, floating over her bed. Eyes rolled back, mouth open like screaming. And the man, the one with no eyes, watching. Daniel said the man talks to Sarah now, says he lives in the attic, says he's lonely, says she's special. One night, Sarah was found standing on a chair staring into the hallway vent, whispering, "I'll come up soon, I promise." They installed a baby monitor in the attic, not for a child, but to catch whatever it was. That night, James sat at the kitchen table listening to static. Then, around 3:15 a.m., breathing, raspy, wet, like lungs full of something thick. Then a whisper, "I see you now." The monitor died. Smoke rose from it, as if something inside burned it from the core. They didn't sleep that night. They sat in the living room, James, Linda, the children, the dog, all of them staring at the ceiling, because that was the night they realized the house wasn't haunted. The house was alive. And now, it was reaching out. James lost his job. He forgot things. Started hearing tapping at the windows, at the floorboards, inside the walls, always 3 taps, always at night. Linda began speaking in her sleep, in a voice that wasn't hers, low, whispered Latin, words that didn't belong to her tongue. The dog stopped eating. Daniel said something terrifying. "It says if we leave, it'll follow us." There's a moment in every haunting where fear becomes acceptance, where the terror is so constant, it becomes normal. You stop running, you start living around it. That's what the Wainwrights did. Because how do you fight something you can't touch? Something that lives in the walls, in your thoughts, in your skin. The scratches were only the beginning. If you're still here, still brave enough to listen, comment below. It marked them. Let us know you're still with us before the house decides to notice you too. Smash the like button if this chapter crawled under your skin. Subscribe to Velvet Shadows because the story isn't over. It's only deepening. And in Chapter 4, the attic comes downstairs. Chapter 4, the night it came down. There's always a night when fear stops being something you feel and becomes something that stands in front of you. Welcome to Chapter 4 of The Wainwright Haunting. This is Velvet Shadows, and tonight, the attic comes down. It was the 3rd of December 2004. Cold, still. Snow whispered across the window panes. Inside, the Wainwright home sat unnaturally silent. No footsteps, no whispers. Even the attic door, usually hanging open, was shut. For the first time in weeks, it was quiet. But that kind of quiet, it never lasts. Linda couldn't sleep. James had passed out on the couch, drained from another sleepless night. The kids were bundled in the master bedroom, clinging to one another under layers of quilts. And the dog was gone. They hadn't seen him since morning. At 2:44 a.m., the silence broke. One sound. Creak! The sound of floorboards bending above their heads. Linda sat up straight in bed. She held her breath. Another creak, then a dragging noise, then the unmistakable sound of the attic door unlatching. She whispered, "No, not tonight." But it was already too late. A sudden blast of freezing air poured into the hallway. Not wind, something else, something old. Then came the laughter, but it wasn't human. It was wet, like a throat full of rot trying to mimic joy. James awoke with a jolt on the couch. He couldn't move. His chest felt crushed, as if pinned beneath something invisible. His eyes darted to the ceiling above the living room. Boom, boom, boom. 3 hard stomps, coming down the attic stairs. Upstairs, the temperature dropped to sub-zero. Frost crawled across the hallway walls. The lights exploded, pop, 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 one by one, bathing the entire upper floor in darkness. The kids screamed. Linda raced out of the room, barefoot, breath fogging in the icy air, and stopped halfway down the hall, because standing at the top of the stairs was it. Tall, bent, twisted, a thing in the shape of a man, but wrong. Too long, too thin. Its arms scraped the floor. Its head twitched sideways, like it was listening. Its mouth opened, but instead of words, it screamed. Not a sound from a throat, a sound from the walls, the ceiling, the vents, like the house was howling with it. James dragged himself from the couch, his body finally breaking free of the invisible weight. He ran for the stairs, then heard it crash. The rocking chair had been hurled from the attic. It hit the wall halfway down the stairs, splintering, screaming. Yes, screaming, not the wood. The chair itself. Like it had a voice, a memory, a soul. Linda grabbed the children and bolted. They didn't grab jackets or shoes. They ran barefoot through the snow, the front door slamming shut behind them as if the house tried to trap them in. Behind them. The house groaned, like something massive inside it had just stood up. The windows flickered, the porch light shattered, and from the attic window, a figure stood watching. No face, just the outline, unmoving, unblinking. The Wainwrights never went back. The house was investigated. Nothing was found, except an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards of the attic. It belonged to Charles M. Langford, the man who built the house in the 1800s. His final entry read, "I gave the house what it wanted, but it still wakes. It always wakes. The devil came to me in this attic. I offered him my soul, but he wanted the children. The house still stands, abandoned, cold, And yet, sometimes, neighbors swear they see light in the attic window, a flicker, a shadow, a rocking chair, moving by itself. They say the house isn't empty, it's waiting. That night, the attic came down, and what was inside came with it. If you made it to the end of this terrifying chapter, comment below. I saw it watching. Let us know you're still with us in the dark. Like this video if the scream from the attic still echoes in your ears. Chapter 5. Some doors stay open. They left the house, but the house never left them. Welcome to the final chapter of the Wainwright haunting. This is Velvet Shadows. And some doors once opened, never shut again. After that night, the Wainwrights vanished. Not from the world, but from themselves. They moved into a small apartment 2 towns away. No stairs, no attic, no history. At first it felt like peace. Silence returned. The children slept. No more scratches, no more cold air, no more footsteps. But then, the doorbell rang. James opened the front door. No one there, just a small object placed on the welcome mat, wrapped in white cloth, old, yellowed, tied with black string. He brought it inside, unwrapped it, and there it was, a shard of wood, curved, smooth, familiar. It was the armrest from the rocking chair. That night, Linda saw something in the hallway mirror, a shadow just behind her shoulder. When she turned, nothing. Sarah began talking in her sleep again, only now. She didn't speak English. She whispered numbers over and over. 3, 1, 7. Always that time. 3:17 a.m. James checked the baby monitor he'd kept in a drawer, just in case. The batteries were dead. He replaced them. And at 3:17 a.m., the static gave way to a voice. You can't leave a door open and expect it to forget. The walls began creaking again, the lights flickering one by one, and Sarah started drawing, not the house. This time she drew the apartment, their new apartment, and in every drawing, the figure was still there, watching from the corner. No face, no eyes, sometimes with something new. A key. 3 days later, James received a small envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside, a rusted iron key and a slip of paper. It still belongs to you. That night he had a dream. He was standing in front of the old house again, only it wasn't abandoned. The windows were lit, the porch was clean, and the attic was wide open. Something called to him. Not words, not a voice, just an invitation. James woke up sweating, clutching the key in his hand. He didn't remember bringing it to bed. When he checked the hallway, the attic stairs were back. In a 1-story apartment, an attic staircase was growing from the ceiling, just like before. Same wood, same shape, same creaking step, forth from the top. The dog was gone again. Sarah was sleepwalking, and the monitor buzzed with static. Then came the final whisper. You opened it. You let me in. Now, I'm home. The Wainwrights disappeared 2 weeks later. No forwarding address, no goodbye. Nothing left behind, except one thing. The apartment manager found a rocking chair sitting in the middle of their empty living room. Still, facing the far corner, dust on the floor around it, undisturbed. And every night since, the new tenants report the same thing. 3:17 a.m., the creak of a rocking chair. The hallway light flickers, and somewhere in the walls, a voice whispers, I never left. Some doors stay open, even after you close them. If you made it to the end of this final chapter, comment below. I left the door open, so we know you're still with us on the other side. Tap like if this story followed you into the dark. Subscribe to Velvet Shadows, because we're not done. The house may sleep, but something always wakes up again. Stay haunted.